Hi everyone, my name is Leah.
Hi, Leah. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you today, Silver? I'm Leah from International Admissions, Students Recruitment at Carleton University, which is located in Ottawa, and I'm very excited to be co-hosting this session today. I will let my co-host introduce himself before we get started.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Saurabh. I work for the University of Victoria. We are a public university located in the western part of Canada, the capital city of the British Columbia province. And today we are going to discuss more about, as you would already say, undecided majors. We will that will be the topic for which we'll be talking more about.
Awesome. So we'll give a brief introduction just to go over what undeclared means. Whenever students are applying from high school to university, we understand that it can be a very overwhelming process to decide which major you would like to pursue. And when you're filling out the applications at that moment, it can be a lot of pressure. A lot of common myths we encounter when students are applying to university is that the major they select is the major they will be stuck with for the rest of their careers. According to a study performed in the University of Toronto, actually, while at the university level, 50 to 70% of students change their majors at least once during their studies. And that just goes to show, even when you do apply to university, if you choose a career and you're not fully set on it, you do still have the option to change. And that's one of the great things about selecting undeclared, is that it allows you to explore a lot of different interests during your first year. And performing a different array, getting the opportunity to work with a different array of subjects and disciplines that you may have an interest in. So, Ray, do you have anything you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, so I can understand there are some of you who would be very focused on what exactly you wish to study. But when it comes to a lot of students are also undecided. They're not sure what studies they're going in for, what will be the modules, whether they'll be able to tackle those modules or not. So it's quite it's a great opportunity for you to explore and then decide where exactly you see yourself, getting employed or getting co-ops done. So it is a very good way of approaching the course, so that you exactly know where exactly you're heading and which are your strength areas, and accordingly you build up your profile, accordingly you build up your course.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. So typically, when students join and they select undeclared, they have the option to choose and kind of create their own timetable. Basically, you have the flexibility of choosing subjects and courses that interest you under a different selection from sciences to social sciences and arts. And it's a great way if you have very many different interests to kind of explore those interests during your first year before narrowing that option down. Some of the key factors that we tell students to consider when they're selecting their major eventually. In most universities, like after your first year or in your second year, you are required to declare your major eventually. And that means there are a lot of different factors that you need to take into consideration when the time comes. For example, you look at your skills, your strengths, what are your interests. It's a great way to kind of use that to decide where is it that I want to go. Like if it talks about your core values, like what do you hold significant in life? Are you looking for personal fulfillment? Are you looking for a high paying job, status, recognition? With your interests, do you like working with people or do you like working with data or do you like building things? Those are things to take into consideration when you're selecting your major eventually. It's also good to take into account your skills. For example, if you're a people person and you socialize well with people, you might want to consider a career that allows you to interact with different people. Anything you'd like to add on top of that?
Yeah, and it's always I see a lot of students who would say they could not pursue their passion along with their academics. Now out here the good thing is that you can also pursue your passion and do some formal education in that. I mean, in Canada you get that flexibility that, say for example, you are studying economics, you can always study a music with that, right? Or you're studying engineering, you would like to get into something into fine arts, yes, you can do that. So it's just on the basis of what kind of caliber you have, and understand, explore your strength areas, and accordingly try to take up courses which are either required by you in terms of building up your profile later on. Say, for example, engineering with business is something which you're looking forward to, or if in case you want to pursue a part of your course, a minor in a particular area which you are good at, say in terms of a hobby. So that both the ways, you can pick your undecided majors and do a major minor combination, and you have to declare it at the end of the first year, and in few cases at the end of the second year. So you have a lot of time to explore and then declare.
That's very true. And I'm glad you mentioned things about engineering and business, because in the applications, a lot of things we see is when students apply, they may not have the prerequisites for their subject of interest, and they feel like that disqualifies them. But that's not necessarily the case, because during your first year, you can work to meet those prerequisite requirements. For example, we see a lot of applicants applying for sciences and business, but they don't realize that they need math at the senior level. So when they're missing that math, it's a great opportunity, because most of the time you'll get an offer to an undeclared or a Bachelor of Arts as an alternative. But during that first year, you can take a lot of math courses at the university level or even through virtual high school to meet that prerequisite, so that eventually you can switch over to the engineering or the business program that you are initially interested in. So that's a great way to kind of use that period in the arts. And you can add a couple more subjects on top of that as you pursue that. And I did want to mention that you can also transfer your credits. So even if you do end up in the Bachelor of Arts and you want to switch over to sciences, there is an option to transfer your credits for advanced standing. So you're not really starting your degree all over again.
Yeah, Leo, very good point you raised. A lot of times I've seen, students don't, India, there's a lot of students who drop their mathematics after the 10th standard. And yes, they wish to pursue a course in science. They're not aware if this is the requirement of the Canadian universities. What you can do is you can enroll in an undecided majors, take up, a couple of maths papers which would be required later on, in your course, and then you can do well in that and still be in science. The story doesn't end there. So I mean, you have the options, but it is just that you have to explore that. Get into contact with your admission officers or your recruitment officers, and they'll tell you how to go about it.
Yes, that's a very good idea, and like that's definitely something we see a lot of. So that does reassure students that there's a lot of hope, even if you don't get into initial program of choice. There is that flexibility. And I would like to add on to something you mentioned, which was a great idea. A lot of students have different interests, and they feel like they can only choose one, but that's not the case, because you can have combined honors, and you can even add a minor on top of that. We have a lot of students who have double majors and double minors that they pursue at the university level.
Yeah, so you can have excellent options like geography with physics, or computer science with statistics. These kind of combinations. You'll not think of it. You feel that your university does not have, for the namesake of it. Most universities won't have that kind of name. But yes, combining these two majors, as I said, geography with physics, you go into the geophysics area. You computer science and statistics, you can go into the data science area. So you have to understand, what to mix to make a better curriculum or a better career in that field. And if you talk about UVic has an academic advising committee who sits down with you, who decides, who discusses with you that, okay, yes, you're looking forward to this kind of career options. So what are the right combination of the subject? So it is not that you, me, or your parents won't be deciding on the subject combinations. You will be sitting down with senior people, academic advising, who has been guiding a lot of senior alumni in the past, and they tell you what is the right combination to get into a relevant field.
Absolutely, and I agree. And many universities in Canada, including Carleton, they do have academic advisors who are dedicated to being able to advise on how to navigate that decision. It's great to meet with them earlier on, especially if you're trying to move from one degree to another, just to make sure you have a pathway set up and a plan. I do see, I just wanted to echo, like a lot of people were kind of considering, because we're talking specifically about Canada, but in the US, there are very many similarities in terms of how people navigate undeclared and declaring a major as well. We do have a lot of similarities in terms of how we have a very holistic approach to our education. But I do recommend, if you're interested in the US, to also look into that as well and do your own further research. I see we have a couple of questions that have come in. Maybe we can try answering some of those questions. And thank you for putting in your questions. So I have a question from Waleed. He's asking about, oops, sorry, I'm having trouble seeing the question now.
Medical program. He's asking about medicine program. I mean, we don't have a medicine program at UVic. I mean, what about you, Leah? I mean, do you have it, Carlton?
We don't have a medicine program, but we do have a lot of pre-med programs that you can use to satisfy the pre-med requirements. So if you're interested in pursuing that, you can start your program, your undergrad at Carleton or any university that offers pre-med programs, and then eventually apply to med school. And a lot of the programs satisfy those prerequisites.
Yeah, and I would like to update a lot of you. You feel that it's not like India wherein you just apply after the program directly into a medicine program. It's not a direct entry. You'll have to do a course first, and then maybe as a second degree you can apply for a medicine program. It's not a direct entry after 12th. You can't apply for a medicine directly.
Absolutely. Somebody asked if there are any disadvantages to applying to an undecided major. That's a very good question. I wouldn't necessarily say there are any disadvantages to applying undecided. The great thing about undecided is that it's for students who have a lot of different interests and they're just trying to find a way to narrow it down. It's a great way to kind of explore those interests. Some of the ways is that you can actually get to meet other people in that field through mentorship programs. So you can learn a bit about the careers you're hoping to pursue, and it kind of gives you a good idea if you really want to pursue that in the long run. It's kind of like a way to kind of have a trial run. You're doing all your different interests, you're trying to narrow down your options so that eventually you may be able to pursue something more specific. So I wouldn't say there are any disadvantages to it because you're still getting your credits, and those credits are transferable if you do choose to move within programs. So it doesn't put in any negative impact on your length of education.
Yeah. And just to add what Leah said, most of you feel that you would be wasting a year. It's not like that at all. Say for example, you've done your first year as an undecided student, all your credits get transferred. It's a 60 credit program, mostly it's a 60 credit program, and all your credits get transferred. So you don't waste time. It's not that your duration of the program extends if in case you do an undecided major.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding that on. Let's see some more questions. I do see a lot of admission related questions, and we will be in our booths later on today.
Yeah.
So you can hop onto the booth and we'll be happy to answer all those admission related questions. I know we're short on time, so I'll try and see if we can get one more question. Talks about combining honors. We did mention you can combine honors from two different programs. For example, within the arts, you can combine humanities and religious studies if that's something you're interested in. Somebody asked if they're in the 11th grade and is it too late to think about studying abroad? It's never too late to think about pursuing education in Canada or in other different countries. In the 11th, you're still within the good time to kind of apply.
11th, I believe, is the best time to think about your universities. You finalize the options, you finalize the courses, then you see what exactly are the application requirements. And 12th is a time wherein you have to start doing it. It's basically more of the action thing. Your planning has to be done in 11th and action has to be done in 12th.
Absolutely. Someone asked, what are the type of problems a student faces when opting for a double minor? Sorry, that's a good question. I wouldn't say there are specific problems. When you do pursue a minor, you do have to fulfill the credit requirements for that minor. So you kind of have to make sure that you're able to handle pursuing. And the good thing about electives is that they can also work towards your minor. So that's something that you can take into consideration when selecting your electives. And that's a good start because in a lot of the first year programs are very general and like more introductory. So you get to take a lot of different courses that are considered electives in different programs.
Yeah, and that's the basic idea of doing a first year wherein you're not in a particular faculty or in a particular course specifically, so that you start building on a very good foundation, and then as you move forward I have to go into mechanical engineering or I have to go into business and all. So it becomes very easy for you to do that transition if in case you have a strong foundation.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we are done with our time today, but we will be in our booths.
Yeah.
It was really great speaking to all of you, and we hope to be able to chat more in all the different booths. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sure. Looking forward to see you all in our booths. Do visit us, quickly, so that we can take your questions there.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending.